What if I told you that you've actually already written your book, but you're not benefiting from it? You need to listen to this. This is for you. What's up, FlowChat fam? CEO and co-founder of FlowChat, Chris here. Today's conversation is one that you need to lean in on. You're going to benefit from, because listen, this content is for the real entrepreneurs that are on the front lines actually getting results. And the guest that we get to talk to today has been working with entrepreneurs like us for a long time, and she solves a very particular problem. It's writing a book. Now listen, we've all heard different pitches about writing a book and why it's important, blah, blah, blah. That's not where we're going today. See, this is something that we're creating a book, like our life's almost a book, but we make it way more complicated, way harder than it needs to be. And this is something that can be done very easily, and you can leverage and benefit from this greatly. What person that you look up to, that you follow, doesn't have a book? Do you think that they don't struggle with everything that you struggle with at even a higher level, but yet they still do this? The question is how, and who has the answer for us is none other than Morgan. Morgan, thank you for joining us today.
Chris, thank you. Super excited to be here.
So I know we got to connect a little bit just before jumping on, and I want you to share more of your story, but I like to do reverse interviews where we get like straight, like, okay, you said this, let's talk about it. And then we're going to dive in behind, why you're so good at this, and like how you came across, paperravenbooks.com. If you haven't checked that out, you can see it on the bottom, paperravenbooks.com. We'll be covering a little bit more of that later. Morgan, how do we, this idea that we're already creating a book, what does that mean?
Yeah, I love working with content creators because y'all have already done so much of the hard work, right? You've already been thinking about who's my market, what is my message, what, if they choose to work with me, what results am I helping them to get? You've already started producing content. More than likely, it doesn't really matter whether it's video for YouTube or posts for Instagram, podcasts, like any of them. It's all content that you can go and mine and pull together. And there are definitely folks who have sort of repurposed, is not exactly the word that I want to use, because I am going to have a nuance here for you, Chris, where I'm not going to recommend that we just like copy and paste blogs and chuck them into
that'd make for an easy service for you. Yeah.
But you have already done a lot of the hard work. And, before we even hit record here, we were talking about Tim Ferriss. I think of James Clear, these folks who, they had a lot of content sort of already produced, and then they're able to go back and mine through that and say, okay, what did people engage with? What really resonated with folks? Where did I have really great stories already? And you can start to pull that into a book. And I mean, this, Chris, you sort of admitted that you're writing a book too. Like when you find that you're in the pages of actually in like writing a first draft, you become so much more clear about a lot of your philosophies and frameworks and methodologies. And so it really helps to just level up your content kind of overall.
This is true. She's calling me out a little bit, but I think it's relevant, and it's really important. Like reading has always been a really challenging medium for me. I'm an insanely slow reader. I took some test and it said, you're severely dyslexic. And I was like, I still got to kind of figure that out. I didn't really know. I just knew that I was always the last one to finish tests, and always had a really hard time with that type of like content. But I would like just spend hours and hours and hours, because I was like, I gotta do the best, And so like books and this, I just had like some head trash essentially. And that's why I really wanted to have this conversation with you today, because books and this type of medium opens up our businesses to such a large, one of the largest markets. And so by saying no to this because I don't like it is like, looking your best customers in the face and just like burning or rejecting money. I was like, that's not how the game of business. So we get to have this conversation today. And like the other one that you're mentioning, Morgan, is really important. We think that, we're really good, we're really excited about what we do, and we're the best. Going through the book writing process was really humbling for me, because I put what I thought I was really good at on paper, and how it came back, I was like, this is a disaster. This is very messy. Like, I'm not communicating clearly. Even if I would even suggest this, even if you write a book and never publish it, what you will benefit from for yourself alone in your trainings and in your client call, like in all parts of your business, even in your culture and your vision and mission with even your own team, you will be 10 times more clear on who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Your communication will increase a ton, and you'll grow even if you didn't publish it. But if you already have it done, you should just do it. So let's talk about this, Morgan. You love working with content creators because they're already creating. And you mentioned, like obviously you're not copying and pasting, which is good. Because when I think about that, I'm like, yeah, like what you say on Twitter isn't what you say on Facebook. Can you talk about the difference between the mediums? What's the difference between content on social and the difference between content in a book?
Yeah, so content on social can be very small, bite-sized, sound bites or just like things that make people think, but it doesn't usually go through kind of what we would call a narrative arc, which is where you're helping people in a book structure. You're meeting people at the very beginning of your book and they're having some sort of problem, right? So you want to tackle, probably a big problem if we're thinking about, it's called prescriptive nonfiction, right? So this is probably what we're going to be all focused on. I assuming we're not writing novels here, right? That's a totally different narrative structure.
Moby Dick 2.0. Yeah.
For prescriptive nonfiction, we're meeting someone where they're having problem growing their business, fitness and nutrition, with family or raising kids or something like that. We've got this big topic where people are having a problem, and sort of chapter by chapter, we're getting to build with stories and information this whole journey where when they stack up all of these realizations, they're going to finish the book a totally different person than when they started. They're going to have an entirely new understanding, not only of sort of frameworks, methodologies, but also a real conviction for this is possible for them. This transformation is possible for them, and an emotional connection with you as the author. That's why books are so great for getting clients, because when they read through your entire, not only your methodology, but they learn more about your story and your case studies and really get to know you as a person. By the time they end that book, they want to work with you. And so that's a level of connection that's really difficult to achieve with, a tweet or whatever we call it now, or a thread or a post.
That's a really powerful point. As you're describing that, I'm thinking of me as the customer going through a journey where I consumed a book and the relationship that I had with that entity before we ever did business. And the short version of the story is essentially the private school, or they deem themselves as a micro school for my oldest son. Their methodology and their whole story of how they were founded in 2009 and now have 327 locations across the world. The point is, I read their book and I was like, this is amazing. And I felt like I knew the founders and I was like, this is the right vision. And now I'm paying 4 figures a month for my son to go to 2nd grade. So if anyone's interested in selling a service for, multiple $4,000 a month, write a book. Anyway, you're completely right on the customer journey. It allows them to go through that process, build relationship. The leads you get are a lot higher. That being said, how would you go? Let's talk a little more tactically. So, there's influencers, there's other entrepreneurs out there that are creating content. Okay. So they're doing the tweets, they're doing shorts and reels. Are they still tweets? I think Elon called it X now. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying.
We'll call them tweets.
They're still tweets. This said, like, how do we start putting that content? How do I look at my own content so I don't feel overwhelmed by like, well, now I have to create like this whole other thing? How do I take the concepts that I'm creating and put them in the format appropriate for a book?
Yeah. So how we've done this with authors that worked for them was, and this is especially helpful if you have 1 or 2 like really primary platforms where you feel like the content that you make really represents how you would talk to somebody. Maybe your video and you're creating a bunch of YouTube, maybe your audio and creating a lot of podcasts, maybe you're more text-based and creating sort of longer form posts or blogs, right? So kind of go to that first platform that you really feel like this is where my best content is, and just spend a couple days going through that content again. If you have transcripts, you can read through transcripts, but try to click through some of those videos, like bring to your working memory what you've been talking about over the last year, 3, 5 years, something like that. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of the human mind. I mean, like you said, we all have head trash about like, oh, what if I don't have a good memory, or, like that sort of thing. But it is a really powerful processor. It's not perfect, but it is a powerful processor. And so if you can just remind yourself of all the things that you've been talking about over the past few years, and then open up, I would suggest, this is going to sound scary. I would suggest opening up a blank document and just typing in everything that you think you might want to include in this book. This could be principles, lessons learned, stories, steps, mistakes that you've made along the way, anything. It's just an unordered list. And the reason that I like to sort of put everything to the side is because typically what is most important is going to rise to the top, is going to be most salient in kind of your working memory. And it's a really good place to start for just like, what's the highest priority? What are the most important pieces? You can take that list. I call it a linear brain dump because it's linear. It's a list. It's not a mind map, that goes all different directions. Personally, I struggle with mind maps, so I created a method that didn't rely on a mind map.
List.
It's a list, right? And so dump everything into an unorganized list, take a break, come back the next day, come back to the list and add to it, read through it again, start to reorganize it, cut and paste because it's in a document, right? And you'll notice that themes start to sort of come together. And at some point, this list will become over time, like days, right? I would suggest this is like the really difficult cognitive part of getting ready to write a book. But that list is going to become, sections of content that you're going to talk about, and you're going to get a feel for, I think I kind of want it to go from this section to this section to this section. You'll remember things. Oh, I wanted to make sure to talk about this story, or I forgot about that over there. Let me pull that in. So you're getting the list together. Now that list, once organized, is your map. Now you use the list and you go find the transcript or the content and you copy and paste it into first draft. That's the order that I would recommend. It's still not going to be perfect, even when you copy paste, that content into a working first draft, even though it's in the order that you already decided. Just know that you're going to come back and either you or you and a best friend who really likes reading books are going to, come back through and really think through and talk through and kind of rewrite some of these sections. But it can cut down your the hours spent writing a first draft. I would say without the existing content, you're probably going to spend easy 40 to 50 hours writing a first draft. With the existing content, you're probably cutting that down to like 10. You're going to do some revisions
4 or 5 times,
but you're getting a lot closer, a lot faster.
That's huge. What I hear you saying is like, you're kind of like outlining, you're kind of like framing the book. You're like, okay, here are the main, here's some ideas. Here's how I like, put them in sections, categorize them. Here's the one thing I want to say in this book. Here's like the flow of how I'm going to say it. And then you just start filling it in. There is if this is encouraging, like what you're saying, the process that like I was brought through was that. And then even for some, they were like, yeah, just go for a walk and start talking through those concepts. And then like you transcribe it and then you start popping in there and editing it and formatting it. I was like, it went way faster. Like I didn't have to sit and think. I just started walking and like, boom, it was like I was on another training call or something and like rattled it out in 30 minutes, 45 minutes and had all this content. Anyway, so as you hear what you're saying is like the framework really like helps fill in and reduce the process by 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. And I want to encourage anyone, like if you've started like trying to write a book and you started with a mind map or an outline and you're like, I don't know what my 16 chapter titles are going to be. Like I was introduced to that process early on as well. And I was like, I can't come up with chapter titles and the 5 things are going to be included in this chapter. Like for some reason, my head doesn't work top down in that way. This is an alternative workflow that gets you to the same place, which is start with a blank piece of paper, list everything unorganized, don't even worry about the order, and just trust that it's going to become clear. You're still going to end up with, I don't know, call it 10 to 20 chapters, and each chapter is going to have, 5 or 6 things in it, but it will have come from the ground up. It will come from, you just dumping out the ideas and then seeing how those ideas group together. So in case that is helpful for anyone.
So how did you get down? We'll transition. How did you get into, writing books and certainly helping others write books?
So I started as an academic. I did not intend to become an entrepreneur. But I thought I was going to I was enrolled in a doctoral program for sociology at Vanderbilt University. I was going to become like a professor of sociology. And I got through the master's coursework. And this is kind of where I was introduced to a lot of kind of my early writing ideas, because academia, you write a ton as an academic, articles and monographs, which are like books. And so I was working with a lot of writers. They were just a different style of writing, and got through that master's program. And I was like, oh, no. Academia is not for me. I don't know what's wrong with me, but this is not where I want to be. So, my husband was graduating law school at the same time. We were starting a family, moving to New York. I was like, I think I'm just going to do my own thing. I love working with writers. I'm just going to be a freelance book coach and book editor. And I had done a internship with a publishing house, and I had some contacts with grad school folks. And so I just started reaching out and selling, right? Like asking for the referral, and getting the clients. And it grew into, we became a freelance editing team working with folks on their books. And we had enough clients that folks were like, hey, thanks for helping me write this book. I can't sell it to a publisher. Can you help me self-publish? And I said, I don't know how to self-publish. I know how to write a book. I know how to edit a book, but I have never, published a book. And so it was probably 7 or 8 years. So 2015 is when we got enough clients who said, help me publish. And I said, if you will be a guinea pig with me, yes. So I published my own book, published a handful of clients' books, figured out the process, and we're, 175 books in at this point, and This is what we do all day, every day.
And after you publish, oftentimes there's marketing. How would you recommend market these books, Morgan?
Yeah. So, we do optimize Amazon as much as possible. If you talk to any of the e-com folks that sell stuff on Amazon, books work in a similar way. You get 7 keywords. And so you can optimize for search engine, traffic, basically, with limited competition. So you can find really good keywords. You can get great categories so that you can hit number ones in these categories and start climbing that category ladder. Those are some things that we definitely talk about. And then a lot of folks get stumped with reviews. And reviews, are certainly tricky. I think that anyone who's following you guys with FlowChat has a major advantage in getting some of those initial reviews, because you're already producing content. You're already using, the messaging side of social to get into direct relationships with folks. You could just start posting on social that you're writing this book. Anyone who's engaging with you, you've got your systems for getting into contact with them. Recruit them for a book launch team. Like, if you can come out of the gate with, I don't want to throw any numbers that are scary to people, but 100 reviews in a short period of time.
That's not bad.
It's going to trigger the algorithm to start showing your book more widely. So if you've got great
100 reviews first 24 hours.
Yeah. I would say even the first week.
Oh,
you'd be, yeah, exactly. So anyone a lot of folks in the book world are like, oh, how do I, get people to pre-order my book? And I'm like, we're not going to play the pre-order game. Pre-order has, traditional publishing and Barnes & Noble have a whole pre-order game that is locked up. When we're selling on Amazon, pre-orders are not nearly as strategic. And I can go into that if that's helpful. But essentially, when you're working with a traditional publisher and pre-ordering through Barnes & Noble holds that sale date. That's why authors, especially new authors, pre-sell their book for 6 months. every single sale is held until launch day, and 6 months worth of sales are dropped on the same day. Boom, New York Times bestseller, right?
Got it.
Amazon doesn't play that way. Amazon's like, no
Like,
way, you
nope,
sold
we
that
know
book
what's going
6
on.
months ago.
Yeah.
We're not holding that sale date, right? So for Amazon, pre-sales are not nearly as powerful, especially for newer authors. And so I'm always trying to redirect our authors and say, don't worry about pre-sales. Let's get a book launch team. Let's get folks who they're invested in you. They care about you. They're going to read the book ahead of time, and they're going to drop a review during your launch week. I mean, the FlowChat community is primed for that kind of strategy and can massively pop up the top of Amazon with a really great book launch team.
So book launch team is the punchline, and that, like, so essentially that's friends, family, followers, member, like people willing to write a review and rate your book. So you you get them ready, and then you say, hey, like on this day, please go in, do a review, and then they'll go in there and they'll drop it. And the goal is at least 100 within the first week or less.
Yeah. There are two kind of philosophies around launching a book on Amazon and using kind of a launch event, right? Because anything that we launch, we want a reason to act now, and we want a deadline, right? And so we create that by toggling the ebook price. The ebook can be free. The ebook can be 99 cents. Those are the two primary sort of philosophies around how to create a time-bound, urgent launch event. And there are definitely folks in my space who will recommend a 99-cent ebook. We can get into the specifics of that. You're ranking in the paid store. Personally, I have really seen massive results from free ebook launches. And the reason is, well, there's a couple reasons.
Like a couple chapters or the whole thing?
The whole thing. And even if it's only one day, I prefer to do the full 5 days that are available, but even if it was just one day, because if you have a massive book launch team, you're able to ask them to download the ebook while it's free and leave a review, and now they're verified purchases. And it's not a big ask to download the ebook when it's free. It's a little bit like, pay 99 cents for the ebook. That's a little bit bigger ask. It's not a huge ask, but it just reduces so much friction for your book launch team. If you can say, look, the ebook's free today or free this week, please download, leave a review. Now it's a verified purchase review. The second major reason I like the free ebook is conversion. So you need as much traffic through that sales page as possible in a 1 week window, and you need that traffic to convert. And so if the ebook is 99 cents, less traffic is going to convert compared to a free ebook. You're going to get more traffic to convert. So when I compared numbers with other folks in my space who prefer the 99 cent, they're getting 150 to 200 folks to buy a 99 cent ebook in a 1 week timeframe, which is great. That's enough to pop them to the number ones that they need to, continue up into those categories.
Yeah.
We're getting 1,500 to 2,000 free ebook downloads. And yeah, we're not making any money off that, but we're still hitting those number ones. And now we've just given Amazon a lot more data points. Yeah. Who is the right person to buy this book? Does Amazon want 150 to 200, or does Amazon want 1,500 to 2,000? And the myriad of psychographic data points.
Morgan, you're all right. You're all right. That's a good tip right there. I like that.
Once or twice.
Because it's the perspective. I was like, I don't know about this free, not that we always need to charge, but I was like, there's other entrepreneurs that they're doing the 99 cents thing. And
that works. It does work. I don't want to say that's not possible. We certainly have done it. It's just, what if you just did free for a few days and then 99 cents?
Yeah, and it seems like the priority is getting the data to Amazon. It's like, help me help you. Like, if I can get them this, it's like, here's the people that are converting. It's like, and if you share it to more of these people, it'll convert for both of us. What do you say, Uncle Amazon? If I'm listening to this and I have like a massive following, I'm like, I know I'm going to be able to charge 99 cents and still get 10,000 people. It's like, okay, well, good for you. But if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not really sure, or I'm going to really have to build my team, go free, because you want to prioritize the data points to get further leverage and distribution down the road. Hey, if people are leaning into this, where's the best place to find you?
paperravenbooks.com is kind of home base. And anyone who is thinking, okay, but I want to know, like, what are the steps for self-publishing a book? Our team has just put together an overview of the entire self-publishing process, plus a 15-page sort of master checklist.
Oh, cool.
So I'm happy to give you guys access to that. You would go to paperravenbooks.com/ready. READY.
/ready.
Paperravenbooks.com/ready. I do have some questions at that address. I'm asking for people to be willing to be a case study if they go through this process that we've put together. And so there's a couple of questions there about, like, are you willing to put in the work? Are you okay with being a case study? And then, of course, I grab your email address because that's what we do as marketers, but only to offer helpful book related information. Don't worry. And then you get free access to this self-publishing overview and master checklist that we just put together. So super excited about that for y'all.
All right. Well, that seems really fair to me. So I'll be going through the process myself and throw that through there. Okay, cool. Yeah. So go to don't miss it. paperravenbooks.com/ready to get everything that we just got to review there, and you'll get access to those resources. Morgan, I appreciate you spending some time with our audience today, and I can definitely tell that that's already within your nature. Just being really useful, being resourceful, and I'm sure that's why you've continued to grow over the years. Before we end, though, I always like to ask people one last question. And this question is essentially, what drives you and why do you do what you do? And while I give you a second to think about this, because it's a little bit of a deeper question, where I'm coming from is what fascinates me are the athletes, the musicians, the actors, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the people that create, the people that put themselves out there. It's a really vulnerable place. If you're an author, you're also putting yourself out there in this vulnerable place. And there's a ton of rejection on that path. And so you, as being an author and an entrepreneur, why do you put yourself out there? Why do you do what you do?
I will admit there is something that is completely irrational. Like, some days I look around at what I'm doing. I'm like, why am I doing this? I could just have a job, right? Like,
Yeah.
that would be easier. So there is something irrational. There's just like this drive to, I don't know, hunt down the next thing, find the next innovation, like be the leader in an industry. And, I'm not entirely sure what it is. But if I were to use my rational brain, I would say it's that I see a lot of problems. Maybe problems is the wrong word. I see a lot of opportunities in the book world specifically.
Yep. Spoken like a true visionary. Look at all these opportunities.
Exactly. I can see like how it's working now, but it could be so much better, like traditional publishing. It would be so much better if people worked with book coaches and had direct access to their editors. It's like, that's what we're creating. And I think further on down the road, like, there's got to be a better way to buy a book. You should be able to walk into a bookstore and like scan a QR code and either like in the next 5 minutes or in the next couple minutes have it on your Kindle or on your e-reader device of choice, even if it's not a Kindle. Have a print on demand version in your hand, have the audiobook in your ears, have like, I don't know if there's going to be a VR version. Like, you should be able to have both, right? You should be able to walk into a bookstore, be surrounded by books you love, scan a QR code and get like everything you could want. So anyway, I could go on this, but clearly like there's something in me that sees the opportunities and I just want to keep following the scent of the opportunity.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty other visionary and entrepreneur listening to you and be like, she gets me. Like, yes. So you're not alone. You listening, watching, you're not alone. You can't explain it. You're just like, you see it and you're driven by it. And it seems like you're in the perfect spot.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Well, super honored to be here with your community. And y'all, if y'all start getting some books out on Amazon, hit me up. Let me know. I would love to cheer you on, promote your book, read your book. So let me know for sure.
Well, thanks so much, Morgan. And thank you for listening and watching. We appreciate your time, your attention. It's a huge deal. Please continue to use it wisely, which is why you'll want to continue to watch the show where we're finding real entrepreneurs, getting real results, and sharing the story and the journey along the way. We'll see you guys next time, and appreciate you.